all the
Hey,
time.
what's up, everyone? This is Jason Tucker. This is WPwatercooler, episode number 164. Today's topic is the new WordPress.com. Let's go around the room real quick and get everyone introduced. We have almost a full cast and crew here. We got 9 folks. George, tell us a little about yourself.
Hi, my name is George Stefanis. I work on Core and I work at Automattic. I didn't have that much to do with the new WordPress.com admin interface, but I'm a regular here, so I like to show up and shoot my mouth off anyways. Also, happy Blue Beanie Day, everybody.
Happy what?
Blue Beanie Day for web standards.
I heard Happy Bulimia Day.
That's what I heard.
No.
In other news,
I thought he was talking about alcohol
about yourself.
and like doing bellinis.
I don't even know what you people are talking about.
folks, we got 9 people to get through. Jason, Cosper, tell us about yourself.
Hey, I'm Jason Cosper. I'm the developer advocate over at WP Engine, and I'll let someone else go.
Awesome. Kevin, tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Kevin. I am a designer at Automattic, and I did work on WP Calypso for the past 20 months or so. So,
Oh my god.
yeah, be able to answer any questions, or if you hate it, then I'll just log off, I think.
Just, again, act like it's technical problems and just
Yep.
go away. Sorry, you're breaking
That's
up.
right. Yeah, the microphone's good.
Hey,
I'll
Robert,
just,
tell us
I'll
about
just
yourself.
sign off right now. It's good.
What?
Tell us about yourself, Robert.
Okay, my name's Robert Dall. I'm a WordPress designer in Vancouver, Canada, and I really need a haircut right now.
That is
Disagree.
Awesome.
relevant information.
Russ.
For your everyday life.
Hey, my name is Russ, lead organizer of WordCamp Vegas, and I feel like that we took Apocalypse Now and the Mel Gibson movie Apocalypto, and we put them together and made Calypso.
How long have you been working on that line?
All week.
30 seconds.
All week.
All
All week.
I have it up on a Google search right now. I couldn't remember Apocalypto.
Scott, what about you?
Hey, my name's Scott Bolinger. I'm the co-founder of AppPresser. Yeah, and that's all.
Awesome.
Mhm.
How about you, Say?
I'm just going to talk for a long time because all these amazing people with these great credentials are just saying their name, so I'm going to take over. Just kidding. I'm Say. I do stuff with WordPress, and I can't wait to get to the topic, so
Sweet. Steve, what
that's
about
it.
you?
Media.
I am Steve Zenkett. I'm the founder of Wow.
What?
I'm Steve Zenkett. I'm the founder of ZK
What?
Active, and I lead the OC WordPress meetup, and I'm going to turn it over to Matt Mullenweg.
What?
Matt, tell
You
us-
missed your turn. Just
Tell us
skip
a little bit
him.
about yourself.
Hello, my name is Matt Mullenweg. I'm very excited to join y'all, even if it's for a short period of time. I'm actually at the Core Committer meetup right now, which is why I can't stay for long. But yeah, I'm excited to hear what y'all are talking about, and if there's anything I can help with over the next 15 or 20 minutes, I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Well, we're excited to have you. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you, Matt.
Hey, Matt.
Jason?
I'm
Hey.
Jason Tucker. You can find me Jason Tucker on Twitter, and I blog over at wpmedia.pro and jasontucker.quest.
Hey, Matt, can we get a better sound level from you? Because I've never heard you talk out of that tone before.
I was thinking the exact opposite. I think Matt and Ira Glass should do a podcast together, and then I'm just like, okay.
Matt, thank you for joining us.
Russ, because the rest of us are like, what just happened?
Yeah.
That's good. So all those thoughts we had prepared just right out the window. Thanks, Matt. Really appreciate that.
I contacted Matt last minute, so he found some time to jump on, so he was able to join us for a couple minutes here, and that's awesome.
So I'm going to
Jason, what were we
start.
talking about? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'll start. So I was one of the people that way back when started on WordPress.com and eventually switched over to a self-hosted WordPress. And I had a short conversation with Say over Twitter some time ago that was WordPress.com and WordPress.org are like streams that are verging into different genres. But I also heard a really good quote in the news media about Automattic, and I thought and I wanted to ask Matt how he felt about this. It's like WordPress as a service. Because really, it's still WordPress, but Automattic is really kind of taking WordPress and making it something that doesn't even look like an actual WordPress install, but is still actually functioning as WordPress.
I'm sure there's a question in there somewhere.
I was going to ask the same
Question
thing.
mark.
Go. Okay, you're on. No, really, Robert. What was your question?
I wanted to ask Matt if he thought that was the was a good analogy. It's like WordPress as a service, because it really doesn't look like WordPress as a self-install, but you guys have really made it your own. So do you agree with that analogy?
Yeah, I think that it is WordPress as a service, but the important things, it's important to look at what's the same and what's different. So things that are same are some of the core concepts. So conceptually, you can move from WP Admin to Calypso and understand kind of where things fit, right? Like things are roughly in the same place, same order, use a lot of the same words. Where it diverges is in places where we think it can help grow the audience of WordPress. So folks like you that maybe 5 years from now can be core contributors or things like that, like with an easier interface that's more intuitive and faster and has some of these other features, we think it'll bring a lot more people in the door.
How do you envision transitioning then from WordPress.com to .org? I've, as Robert was talking about, I was recently talking on Twitter about how different it is. I couldn't even find the admin. I was like, what's even happening in here? So I don't understand how that's transitioning. To me, it just looks like it's forking and going its own way. Is that not happening? Is it happening? I'm very confused.
Well, we'll see how it evolves, but I mean, one way you can think of it is client versus server. So you can actually use the Calypso client to talk to self-hosted sites. Today that requires a Jetpack plugin. In the future it might not. You know, as the APIs evolve, as Calypso evolve, that could be something that could talk even directly without any intermediaries, like WordPress.com acts today. Now, so this client that people run, it's what shows up when people search in the App Store for WordPress, right? It sort of is the first thing that people might see.
Sure.
The server side is what sort of becomes, call it WordPress server, you know? It's where you can modify code, it's where you can change themes, it's all these sorts of things. It's what serves the front end of the site. So it's this other sort of side of WordPress. So ideally, I mean, maybe you can transition between them and not ever need to visit WP Admin. I mean, if everything you need to do, it's not there today. Calypso's a 1.0. But if this interface, which is faster, better, more responsive, ties into mobile views and apps, like if that can do everything that you need to do, fantastic. And then plugins that modify the admin can eventually be built in JavaScript, talking purely to APIs and the Calypso-like approach.
So we hang on. We skipped a step here, right? Just so our audience understands. For Matt, this is kind of for Matt and for Kevin. Kevin mentioned you've been working on this for the past couple of years. What is this, right? What is Calypso, right? Our audience, they have no idea what we're talking about.
We can answer it in terms of what Calypso has been for us until now. To me, the key moment is the open sourcing moment, and where it's going to go is sort of a partnership in my mind. So the open sourcing of this is us saying this is where we've taken it as a service that we think works in the service UI world. How that changes to fit self-hosted is sort of the future of both Calypso and WordPress.
So I don't know if that was actually helpful, but Scott.
Let me try to zoom out a little bit.
Thank you. Yeah, please.
Go for it. Zoom out.
Calypso is 100% JavaScript client for WordPress. So if you're using WordPress today, it can talk to your existing site and gives you a new interface to write posts, read posts, look at your stats, get notifications, do a number of things to play and have fun with your WordPress. And it can address one site or multiple sites, and go ahead.
It's kind of an easier way to manage all your sites from one spot, right?
Totally.
And you're going that direction
with
with
new WP admin.
Yeah.
You're going that direction with the central management thing that was happening in Jetpack, right? Is that those are kind of related? Those are all one thing. I guess I'm more concerned. Like Scott, I wanted to ask you about this. You wrote a really amazing article on this whole thing, coming from someone who makes apps and takes WordPress and does the app stuff with it, kind of on the cutting edge of that. And I was really intrigued because I built themes. That's how I got into WordPress, doing theme development. And this new switch is, well, a lot of your articles talking about how themes are basically being kind of outdated almost, or pushed past. What do you see about that?
Well, so there's two parts to that. There's one is you can use WordPress with the APIs and still have a normal WordPress theme, right? That you can still use JavaScript and APIs and use a normal WordPress theme. That you go into the admin appearance themes, you press activate, and it works, right? But then there's another side of it where we can build an app that's completely separate from WordPress, where the front end does not use a theme at all. And everything that's visual is built in JavaScript and HTML, CSS, or React, or whatever it is that you're using, and you're only using the API to communicate with WordPress. In that case, what theme you have active has absolutely nothing to do with your app. It won't affect it whatsoever. You don't even need a theme except to make WordPress not throw an error. So actually, I had a question for you, Matt. One of the things that I see happening, I've been building apps with JavaScript and WordPress APIs and stuff for a little over a year now, and one of the interesting things that's happening is I love it, and I think it's working great, but as we decouple WordPress from the admin experience, traditionally that's really been what people love about WordPress is the admin, making it easy to create a website. But as we decouple WordPress from this admin and use APIs, what we're really doing is WordPress is a middleman to our database, and it's really just sort of connecting our app through an API to a database, and all we're really doing is saving data and we're returning data. Now there's it's still advantages to using WordPress because of plugins and things like that, but what I'm wondering is down the line, if we decouple WordPress so much from the admin experience and PHP and everything like that, does it become almost to the point where it's easier to just use something like MongoDB or some sort of other database structure and get rid of WordPress as a middleman altogether? And does that concern you at all?
I mean, that could certainly happen, but you could have said that could have happened 5 or 10 years ago. I think that what has always served WordPress well is a confluence of many things coming together. We use the term ecosystem, and a lot of people misuse that term, but I think it's actually 100% applicable in WordPress's case because there's many elements. It's themes, it's plugins, it's web hosts, it's people implementing WordPress sites, it's educators, it's the people writing books, it's people teaching WordPress in classes. Like, all of this comes in a loop that each benefits each other. Why does every single thing in the world have like a WordPress integration or WordPress plugin? Because it's the biggest. Why is it the biggest? Well, maybe because everything integrates with it. It's kind of it's a flywheel that serves it. And what we need to focus on is two things. One, how can we speed up that flywheel and keep it going? And two is, what are the things that we can do to significantly change the adoption curve of WordPress among its various constituencies? I think that something like Calypso could change the adoption curve of WordPress for people building blogs and websites. People sort of coming fresh to it that might not be developers. I think something like the REST API could cause developers that might not have ever considered WordPress before because their front end was so coupled to the back end to look and say, wow, this gives me a ton. This gives me like an update framework, a plugin framework, a user authentication framework, a way of storing users and passwords that's very secure, and say, wow, this actually, I don't need to recreate all that. So starting with WordPress might get me, I can focus on the things that are really different about what I'm doing rather than, if you're just building from the ground up or even using a framework like Symfony, you end up recreating the wheel 15 different ways.
Yeah, that's very true.
I think one of the biggest gains that we've had with Calypso is, if you look historically, there have always been alternate admin UIs for WordPress, even if they're just what's in the Android or iOS app stores, using XML-RPC talking to WordPress via a different API. With this, we're running through the REST API, and I think the really big win is most of the folks who use WordPress are web developers. We know how to write things in HTML and JavaScript. We don't know how to write things in Objective-C or Java nearly as well. So there wasn't as much opportunity to extend the mobile apps and really cater them to a good use, to different use cases. But with Calypso, how everything is built in HTML, JavaScript, React, that's in our own skill set, so it's much easier to take those components components, reuse them or extend them, and use the same skill sets and the expertises that we've already developed to keep pushing it forward and advance it down the road.
Your skill set, I have to learn a whole new language. Fuck.
JavaScript is not that new.
Well, one of the things I'm actually kind of concerned about is that we've put so much time and effort into making the WordPress admin experience so fluid and so as good as it is, but yet the I see like a divergence, and could we possibly have multiple different admin experiences with this WordPress API? I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
But how is
That's
now,
what everyone seems to be so excited about. Yeah,
how's that a bad
isn't that
thing?
everyone's like, woohoo, custom everything.
I mean,
Yeah.
and then
look,
your
when you do
WordPress isn't my WordPress because it's a different admin.
No, it's WordPress is WordPress. You're just using a slightly different screen to administrate it. I mean, let's face it, when you're going down one path so long and you keep optimizing and optimizing and optimizing, occasionally you can get a bit of tunnel vision, not really considering, is there an alternate way that might be better? So when you're trying to manage and administrate multiple sites at once, Calypso was built with that expectation from the ground up. So consider it a second path, a challenger that in the end may win, may lose, but it's a different path not taken, and being developed in parallel, I think both sides are definitely going to gain from it.
That's super forked up. I just really wanted to say
An amazing
that.
testament to what we've also created over the past 13 years with WPadmin, that it took a lot of work to get to where we are now, which is about 80% of the way there. So it's non-trivial to recreate WPadmin. Like, I don't know if I'd recommend it. Now, hopefully what we'll do is have a more modular approach so people can customize a little bit more while still maintaining some of the commonality that makes WordPress, once you learn it once, it kind of works everywhere. But there is the reality that, the plugins customize admins quite a bit already. So if you're using like advanced custom fields or some of these other things, like you're essentially using a pretty customized admin of WordPress already.
And that's a good thing, because that really is part of WordPress's ultimate evolution, right? Because not all sites are created equally, not all clients are created equally. Everybody uses WordPress nowadays for a different purpose, right? So it really is a platform now.
I think what we have to be careful about is not allowing that plurality to be almost like a siren song that doesn't force us to make hard decisions and try to see what is the best for most people. So we still need decisions on options. This is just sort of a different path where it's an experiment. We're seeing like in this both different technical architecture and with some different user interfaces, whether we can provide something that's a lot more compelling. And you know what? If it is a lot more compelling, we can use that data to both either evolve WPadmin or perhaps adopt Calypso wholesale. I mean, that's why we open sourced it, because it's part of the community. It's not meant to be in competition. It's meant to be like, hey, here's a different way of trying things. Let's see how it goes.
So are you saying that IP6 was a bit of an experiment, and you're saying Calypso is a bit of an experiment as well? MP6, my apologies, George.
Like IP6, like wow.
You don't know about it, man. It's something we're working on.
So are you saying that they're along the same vein, that MP6 was then integrated completely in the core after it was thoroughly tested out? Are you saying that that's a possibility with Calypso at all, or?
Yeah, the code's open source, so it's completely compatible with WordPress. There's nothing that says we couldn't point people to it or include it in the download or anything. It's completely compatible. So I think what MP6 taught everyone involved with it, certainly me, was that it was an iteration, right? But the time it took that iteration and the difficulty of getting it integrated was too long. It was too hard. And that was even with myself involved and many other like amazing designers and folks. So this also provides an alternative development path that I think we can iterate faster on. Already internally, there's been for some of the screens dozens of versions. Like this editor that you're seeing in Calypso, it's kind of like the third or fourth major swing at it, and maybe maybe the past 18 months or 2 years, including one which never even saw the light of day, like one that had 8 to 10 people working on it for a year and a half that we never even released because it never quite worked out.
Who do you...
Hey Matt, real quick, does WP VIP use the new interface, or is it still like a regular Impact? And I was just wondering if this gets into hosting, like does this start impacting that? Maybe Cosper can get in on this?
So WordPress VIP users can use Calypso. Now, they run into a version of what I think the larger WordPress community is going to run into, that some of them have customized workflows or customized WP admin. So whether that's either maybe something built into WordPress that Calypso doesn't support yet, or something that a plugin has modified. So there's no plugins in Calypso yet. So that's something we still have to figure out how they can create perhaps this customized use case. Maybe it's like an extra, maybe they manually choose related post or something like that. Like, how does that work in this sort of API-driven world?
Scott, you were talking about in your article about that, about how the API is really jumping kind of over plugins somehow. Can you talk to that point a little bit?
Not over plugins, but I see when apps are completely disconnected from WordPress, like for example, this app that's built in React, it's connecting to WordPress through an API. It can connect to plugins, but the way that it connects to those plugins is completely different than the way that those plugins work now. So what a lot of plugin authors are going to have to do is they're going to have to build ways they're going to have to support WP API, which is separate from the WordPress.com API, but I won't get into that. And then
thank you.
So for example, let's take a forms plugin for example. I'm going to pick on Gravity Forms. So you could take any plugin. The way that their plugin works, the form processing and everything does not have anything to do with the API. It does not work with the API. They have their own API that you can use and things, but if you install the WP API and you try to use it in, say, a separate mobile app built in React or Angular or whatever, it doesn't work at all. So you're going to have to build a whole bunch of custom code in the app to connect to your Gravity Forms. You're going to have to rebuild your forms in your app, all this kind of stuff. So what I was saying is plugin authors, they need to start supporting the API. There could even be things like API JavaScript first plugins where they're built to support APIs first and PHP and WordPress plugin stuff second. And there's going to have to be things like you could build React templates or Angular templates to go along with your plugin. You could have a node module. It's an Angular service that connects from your app to WordPress, and that way it's kind of plug and play on both the app side and the WordPress side. So anyways, I just kind of was thinking about what this could become in the future in that article.
Basically, this just took and opened up an entire new area for developers to jump in and make products, right? Like this is just a whole empty space that's about to get rushed by hopefully everybody.
Rushed?
That's what everyone was really excited about. Last year at WordCamp San Francisco, we did at Community Day, that's all anyone was talking about was the API. And it's really exciting, I think, to see it in implementation now. And I think next year at this time for WordCamp US 2, we're going to be like in a different world because there's no way this can't impact .org. It's impacting the plugins, it's impacting the themes, and if everyone starts expecting an interface like Calypso or what is on WordPress.com right now, which is completely different, then we're dealing with two totally different set of expectations for different users, and that's going to change like really fast. I think it's going to have to, or it's just going to split.
So it sounds like we need a Calypso customizer at some point then, where you're able to move things around without having to know a whole bunch of JavaScript.
Oh God, no!
Jason Tucker for the win.
Hey man, I don't talk all that often, but when I do, there you go.
Just sing it.
Calypso customizer. Wow, you went there, my friend.
I mean, as we ship API-driven development, the clients can suddenly no longer need to be written in PHP. They can be written in Python. They can be written in Java or whatever you want. And so we're no longer forcing folks to migrate to PHP if they happen to be a code snob that wants to write something in Go.
Yeah, but I kind of like I like a code base where you have to define things and be very accurate. I don't like Python because you can be very sloppy and still get away with things.
Yeah, because that's totally
It's
not
good to know,
PHP.
Russ. That's good to know. So,
PHP is a little more stable than Python, I think.
this is also going to change the game because there's a lot of developers out there that are code snobs and are pissy about WordPress and PHP, and I think this is going to excite all of those people. And so, in addition to the ecosystem that's continually growing and the 25% and all that fun stuff, basically you just opened this up and said, come on in and play with your toys, everybody.
Yeah.
And so, what the hell?
Yeah,
I really don't
Node
want to learn
and React communities
JavaScript.
The Node and React community has been very welcoming when the announcement came out. They're thrilled to see it getting embraced and integrated with something like WordPress.
Yeah, I actually had a lot of conversations at LoopConf around, there was an Angular conference going on there at the same time, and a lot of people were really excited when they realized that like we were even going to be shipping the REST API in WordPress, like that was coming down the pipe. They were just like, oh, you mean I don't have to worry about building an admin or anything like that. I can just hook into it with the API. I think it's really going to open things up for developers who may not have given WordPress a first glance.
I think this actually solidifies what I've been teaching my my various clients for the past couple of years, that WordPress is now like fully an FDI, which means fancy data inputter. And so that's really it's really what it is, and I think we should all just start calling it that from now on. It's an FDI.
Every application. Every application is that. It's Twitter.
I think one of the things we're going to have to do with WordPress is tell people why.
Go ahead, Scott.
We're going to have to start telling people why WordPress is good with apps, why it works well with apps, why it's different than what it was before. We're going to have to do a lot of education and evangelizing in people, like communities outside of WordPress and stuff, so that they realize that this is a cool way to do stuff and why it's different and better.
Well, and I think an important new feature that's coming in 4.4 is the addition of the REST API. I think that I'm really excited about that. I mean, Scott and I talk about this a lot. I've been building apps on top of WordPress for years as well. This is a big announcement and a big feature that's coming in 4.4.
Well, the API plumbing is coming. The endpoints aren't popping in until 4.5.
I understand that it's baby steps. I get that, but that's still a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely for sure happening very soon. So next year.
Do you collectively, and I guess Matt, really envision the existing .org codebase like being upgraded like this over the next year or two, or is it just going to continue with its backwards compatibility, PHP happiness? I like PHP.
I love PHP.
Yeah, what's wrong with PHP?
Yeah.
I don't know. Everyone seems to be leaving. I'm like,
what are you talking about?
The PHP party. I love
PHP is the top used server language by far.
Yeah.
Well, then why are we switching? Because I don't want to learn JavaScript.
So the APIs that Calypso talk to are still running PHP.
Yeah.
And that's the key. So I think PHP is still the best server-side language and has a ubiquity of distribution, which is incredibly powerful. But if you look at the major feature releases in WordPress, really of the past 4 to 5 years, they've been mostly JavaScript. Most of the user-facing code that makes things exciting, whether that's in the custom language.
Whoa!
Oh, George, I think that's you.
George's beard. Sorry about that.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
These things have been largely JavaScript already. So now what we're doing is just starting to look and say, well, if we're already writing the majority of these features in JavaScript, is there a way to communicate? Is there a way to have the data structures? Is there a way to architect the app that rather than having HTML, CSS with some JavaScript sprinkled in, we reverse it and say everything's JavaScript and it's data-driven, and then we figure out, we sort of work backwards from there.
So, quick question. I know we're almost running out of time, but how do we keep people engaged in writing stuff for WP Admin when we have this exciting new thing in Calypso?
Good question.
Well, luckily WP Admin has tens of millions of active users. So it's where the people are. It's like, why do you rob the bank? That's where the money is. You write things for WP admin because it's where the people are today.
Good analogy.
Because it's almost like WP admin and Calypso is almost like you're driving a car with a steering wheel on the left, and then you're driving a car with a steering wheel on the right, and you're like, oh my god, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm driving this car, which I know how to drive, but on the completely wrong side of the road.
Calypso is a self-driving jetpack.
But the radio's still in the middle, so that's all that. That's all that
And on that note,
that's it, folks. Thank you very much for being on the show, Matt. Thank you very much for stopping by and hanging out with us at the last minute. I appreciate that. Make sure you go to our website, WPwatercooler.com. Click on the links there and subscribe to us both on social media as well as on YouTube. Thank you, guys. Talk to you later.
See you in Philly.
Bye.
thank you.